Greetings, my fellow freedom lovers and sovereign thinkers. This is LL3's newest podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful land of enchantment, which is also known as the state of New Mexico, along the Albuquerque Rio Rancho area. And today's date, Tuesday, August 11th, 2015. And actually, it's early Tuesday morning here within the state of New Mexico. And I'm going to be heading out, hopefully, anytime soon to do other missions, maybe heading to Utah, most likely. However, I got a few things a couple things I'm going to be addressing here. And actually, this one came from LibertyBlitzkrieg.com. Came out yesterday. Or lately yesterday, and this is entitled, New York Times warns about the Pentagon labeling journalists underprivileged belligerents. Very interesting here, huh? And this is from the Post. It's follow-up to a piece I published in June. New 1,000-page Pentagon War Manual potentially lumps journalists in with underprivileged belligerents. So it's just a follow-up, and it says here's an excerpt. A 1,176-page Pentagon War Manual was recently released that hasn't received the attention it deserves. The book of combat instructions titled Department of Defense Law of War Manual apparently covers the rules of war for all branches of the U.S. military. One passage in particular has generated controversy where journalists seem to be thrown into a convoluted and opaque category in which they could be seen as underprivileged belligerents as opposed to civilians. Naturally, this has concern that journalists at U.S. government does not like to be lumped into the underprivileged belligerents category and subsequently murdered at will. Can we say the war on journalism, which is the same as the war on terror? What a concept. As I continue here, now the New York Times is concerned as well, and rightfully so, in an op-ed to today. The paper explains that the Defense Department earlier this summer has released a comprehensive manual outlining its interpretation of the law of war. The 1,176-page document, the first of its kind, includes guidelines on the treatment of journalists, covering armed conflicts that would make their work more dangerous, cumbersome, and subject to censorship. Those should be repealed immediately. Journalists in the manual says are generally regarded as civilians, but in some instances it deemed underprivileged belligerents, a legal term that applies to fighters that are afforded fewer protections that can declare combatants in a war. In some instances, the document says the relaying of information, such as providing information of immediate use in combat operations, could constitute taking a direct part in hostilities. The manual that reporting on military operations can be very similar to collecting intelligence or even spying, so it's called on journalists to act openly and with the permission of relevant authorities. It says that governments may need to censor journalists' work to take other security measures so that journalists do not reveal sensitive information to the enemy. The manual's arguments that some reporting activities could be construed as taking part in hostilities is ludicrous. That vaguely worded standard could be abused by military forces to censor or even target journalists. Equally bizarre is a document suggesting that reporters covering wars should not operate only with the permission of relevant authorities or risk being regarded as spies. To cover recent wars, including the civil war in Libya in 2011 and the war in Syria, reporters have to sneak across borders, a great personal risk to gather information. For the Pentagon to conflate espionage with journalism feeds into the propaganda of authoritarian governments. Egypt, for instance, has tried to discredit the work of Western journalists by falsely insinuating that many of them are spies. Even more disturbing is the document's broad assertion that journalists work may need to be censored lest it reveals sensitive information to the enemy. This unqualified statement seems to contravene American constitutional and case law and offers other countries that routinely censor the press a handy reference point. In early documents on the law of armed conflict, the American military has offered more sensible guidance on the treatment of journalists. A guidebook published in 2012 by the United States Army Judge Advocate General Legal Center and Schools said that journalists should be protected as civilians provided they take no action adversely affecting their status as civilians. This is not what freedom looks like. For the trend toward the state becoming more authoritarian and the citizenry having fewer rights continues, it will keep moving in direction until people decide they've had enough. And there's plenty of other links in here as well. And it's from In Liberty, Michael Krieger. Nicely done there again, Mr. Krieger. It's like I've been talking about this in my past episodes about the war on journalism. The United States is just an example. This is happening worldwide. And this is another program, Big Brother Manifesto, 1984. And come on, we say, all hail to the police state. Idi Amin would be proud. Or other great tyrants like Mao Tse-tung. And, we can go on. I could get a big list on that. Go on, I'm not going to digress over it. But this is really another anti-Bill of Rights platform. We know about the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution and the Ninth as well, natural law. So you know what? To you, with this pathetic rhetoric, I could just use your manual as toilet paper. And hopefully, if the Pentagon hears this, too bad, because you are actually the governmental terrorist, and I say this in good faith. And this is going on and on and on. And when will the people within this nation realize we gotta end the empire? It's becoming too authoritarian. This is downright monumental deception. So that is how I look at it. And what's going to be next is going to be unprivileged belligerents. Podcasters? Yeah, we'll probably be the next one as belligerents, because we're not one of those little groomed buffoons who go, okay, boss, we will do as we told. Bend over. How far, please? How wide do you want my anal cheeks to spread? Anus cheeks, So, or buttocks cheeks, excuse me about that. Now, I am being a little bit sarcastic, but I'm not going to get too graphic or vulgar, use vulgarity, because that's not really my forte when I do these things. So, this is just another thing, another ordeal that they're trying to do. I'm glad, too, the New York Times has is concerned as well. So there's some good folks in these hired journalists within these mainstream newspapers, but a lot of the time they're getting deprived of what they do. Give them more creative control. They have to be the watchdogs as well. And this is how I look at it, and this is a total shame. All right, next one here. Sorry about that. Came from the Washington Times. Came out earlier today. I just got this from Twitter. And it says here, Senate passes gun violence tax. Seattle passes gun violence tax bill. It says here, Seattle made it official Monday, trying to tax its way into a lower crime rate. The city council voted 8-0 to approve a bill that would impose taxes on sales of both guns, $25 per weapon, and ammunition, 2 cents to 5 cents per round, depending on the caliber, with the money designated to research into gun violence and other anti-gun groups. Gun violence is a public health crisis in our city and our nation. Council President Tim Burgess told the Seattle Times on Monday, city government can and must pursue innovative gun safety measures that saves lives and save money. Where the hell these idiots come from? As it has in the other areas of policy, Seattle can lead the way. Gun rights groups have promised a legal fight a crime, among other things, that state law does not allow cities to regulate firearms. This is going to be an interesting battle here, and I do really find this technically unconstitutional as well, especially when it goes to programs, all right, that are anti-firearms. To me, that's total extortion, as far as I'm concerned. And if the people in Seattle think it's great, you're in la-la land. You're just in a total wet dream. You know, it's a good place you should check out? Kennesaw, Georgia, which is the suburbs of Atlanta. And during that time, they had issues on crime, break-ins and so forth. So what they done, the city made an ordinance that says every household should at least have one firearm, including businesses. You know what happened? Around 80% of the crime rate dropped. You can look it up yourselves on Kennesaw, Georgia. Okay? And I know another place too recently, it's called Hope, Georgia, had the same ordinance or resolution. And you can't really force people, but it's a good deterrent. So criminals have to think twice. Crime went down 80% in Kennesaw, Georgia. And if you have a chance, really look it up. You'd be really surprised, my friends. And Seattle is doing things half-ass. It's not progressivism. Progressivism is stagnation, in my honest view. And I say this in good faith. So I don't know what Tim Burgess is talking about. He is in the twilight zone. Don't be surprised if these city councils don't have to pay for these bogus taxes, and they probably have firearms in their facility with their armed guards. And here's another thing. How guns create violence. They're not artificially intelligently made. Hello? Because you know why? Because they want to control you guys in Seattle. Yep, that's a fact. And don't be surprised that it can backfire. And here's another thing you folks can look at. And I went to the Washington's Constitution, and it says, it's funny, I'm going through some of the articles. Actually, it's Article 1. And like, all political power is inherited in governments derived that just powers from consent are of the governed and are established to protect and maintain individual rights. But we want to tax you on those individual rights. Not protect, but regulate. What a concept. That's Article 1, Section 1. And, of course, Section 2. The Constitution of the United States is the supreme law of the land. And we could hit number 6 here about oaths of mode of administering. The mode of administering an oath or affirmation shall be such as may be most consistent with and binding upon the conscience of the person to whom such oath or affirmation may be administered. And we could hit 23. 23 over here. It goes down. I'm just bear with me. 23 states here, which is the Bill of Attainder ex post facto law, etc. Bill of Attainder ex post facto or law impairing the obligations of contracts shall ever be passed. So how I look at this regulation tax thing is more of an ex post facto law. And we can hit 24, the individual citizens to bear arms in defense of himself or the state shall not be impaired, but nothing in this section shall be construed as authorizing individuals to corporations to organize, maintain, or employ an armed body of men. All right, and we can actually hit 29. Constitution mandatory. The provisions of this Constitution are mandatory unless by express words they are declared to be otherwise. Well, Seattle doesn't have that right, and of course, if you hit 30, the enumeration of this Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny others retained by the people. And we can hit 32. Fundamental principles. A frequent recurrence to fundamental principles is essential to the security of the individual right and the perpetuity of free government. Well, what Seattle done is made it somewhat free, okay, and unsecure their rights by regulating it with the taxes. And the people in Seattle, what they can do too is 33 and 34. And we can look at 33. It says here, recall of elective officers. Every elected public officer in the state of Washington, except judges of courts of record, is subject to recall, discharged by the legal voters of the state or the political subdivision of the state from which he was elected, whenever petition demanded his recall, reciting that such officer has committed of some acts or acts of malfeasance while in office, or who has violated his oath of office, stating the matters complained or signed by the percentage of the qualified electors, therefore hereinafter provided, the percentage required to be compute from the total number of votes cast for all candidates for his said office to which he was elected at the preceding election is filed with the officer with whom a petition or nomination or a certificate nomination to such office must be filed under the law of the state, and the same officer shall call a special election as provided by the general election, the law of the state, or results determined in their within. And the same thing on 34, the legislative shall pass the necessary law to carry out the provisions of the section 33 of this article, and to facilitate its operation in effect without delay, provided that the authority hereby conferred upon a legislator shall not be construed to grant to the legislator any exclusive power of lawmaking, nor in any limit of the initiative and referendum powers reserved by the people. So the percentage required shall be state officers other than judges, senators, and representatives, city officers or of cities of the first class, school district boards in cities of the first class, county officers of the counties of the first, second, and third classes, 25%. Officers of all other political subdivisions, cities, towns, township precincts, and school district are not herein to mention, and state senators and representatives, 35%. So, yes, you can do a recall on those dinkleberries, all right, those knuckleheads that voted for it, and if the mayor signs it, you can get him as well. So, the people in the city of Seattle, I know that Bernie Sanders may claim it's the most progressive city in the United States of America. If you are very still pro-natural law, or natural born rights, or are you honor your oath as voters to honor the U.S. and Washington constitutions, take the initiative on recalling these clowns, because they are depriving your fundamental rights, okay? And that's the whole thing, is principle. That's all I'm letting you folks know. It's nothing personal, but principle. So definitely get rid of these douchebags, and I say that out of love. All right, and I'm going to say enough of that on the whole thing in Seattle. But if you disagree, if you support me, if you have laws in the state laws that say that they say the cities can't do that on firearms, hey, send it to me. It'd be great, because I haven't really looked at that yet. But I'm just going by Article 1 of your state constitution. So if you got more information on it, hey, man, hit me. Don't be shy, okay? All right, next one here. This is done by Jack Mullen, and it's entitled Conquerors Take Down Monuments. And the Jack Mullen page, and I'm just going to skim right through down here. And this came out, August 11th, came out today. It says here, Ta-Nehisi Coates write an article published in the Atlantic magazine called The Takedown of the Confederate Flag Now. His call is not to take down the flag. His call is to take down white America. Saul Alinsky wrote the book Rules for Radicals, which is a handbook of tactical for agitating rules for creating radical change in the social system, even when no change is desired. Alinsky's rules are the framework of the modern-day deconstructionists, the new Bolsheviks, carrying the Communist Manifesto in the 21st century. Alinsky's rule number 8: keep on the pressure, never let up, keep trying new things, and keep the opposition off balance. As opposition masters one approach, hit them from the flank with something new. Attack from all sides, never giving the reeling organization a chance to rest, regroup, recover, and re-strategize. This is the rule in operation now as communist agitators, using easily duped, youthful idiots, attempt to capitalize on the opportunity created by the events in Charleston, South Carolina on June 17th, 2015, or June 8th, 2015. It is no coincidence that Dellon Roof went on to an all-black church in the heart of the South, the state of South Carolina, where the War of States' Rights officially began on 12th of April, 1861. Charleston incident likely supported in some way by some people creating the Sandy Hook hoax, or the people behind the Aurora Batman shootings or Boston bombings false flag. Has it finally lit the fuse? The psychopathic social engineers, the radical agitators for chaos and the New World Order, has been seeking for 100 years. The Southern Confederate flag is not a flag of hate. It was a flag of hope for the states of the South, hoping to return power to the states and escaping the growing power of the federal government. The Civil War was not originally about slavery. The North had slaves too, and continued to have slaves after Lincoln announced the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863. The Emancipation Proclamation was a strategy designed to cripple the South's ability to fight on, as former slaves freed might become supporters of the North, and Southern slaves were also used as farmhands, with their labor used to supply the Confederate armies with food and supplies. Up until 1863, slavery was not a direct issue of the war. Slavery was a problem, but something most in the North and South believed would pass with time. By the end of the war, South offered emancipation to slaves, also in return for fighting against the North. The primary reason for the war was to punish Southern states for secession and consolidate federal power. Northern states continued to employ slave labor until the war. After the war in 1865, by mid-1800s, slavery was already on its way out. Although the South barely held on, a machine age was quickly evolving, which would make slavery obsolete. And I remember looking about it, that was a cotton gin, but I'll continue on here. For the record, slaves were owned by both whites and blacks, and interestingly, the first person to own a slave in America was a black man, Anthony Johnson. About 1860, the city of New Orleans, 3,000 free black men owned slaves, or 28% of the black population of New Orleans owned slaves. At one time, black slave owner William Ellison owned more than 99% of the South slaves owners. For the record, blacks and Jews participated in slave trade in the 1800s, according to, Rabbi Mark Lee Raphael, in his book Jews and Judaism in the United States, a documentary history, is on Amazon.com. Jews participated in the triangular trade that brought slaves from Africa to the West Indies in their exchange from the molasses, in which turn was taken to New England and converted into rum for sale in Africa. Isaac da Costa of Charleston in the 1750s, David Franks of Philadelphia in the 1760s, Aaron Lopez of Newport in the late 1760s and the early 1770s dominated Jewish slave trading on the American continent. Demonizing the South and the history and the heritage of South Carolina is part of an attempt to foster a race war between blacks and whites. The Confederate flag has nothing to do with the shootings in Charleston. This issue is just another attack on white history and the symbols of a nation growing up. The Charleston shooting incident will continue to be used to destroy traditional white culture. It was used for more gun restrictions and escalating calls for a so-called hate crime law, including hate speech laws. Hate speech laws protects the haters, those people attempting to destroy white America and hate to be exposed. Hate speech is actually the speech our enemy hates to hear. Therefore, they try to ban free speech by labeling it hate speech. America is preparing for a contrived, provocateur, socially engineered race war, followed by the Civil War as the usurpers used the captured American military against the American people. White people have the right to their culture and their way of life. Many people, including haters of white people, writing in articles cited above using terms like white supremacist. When they are angry and resentful, white people could even want to preserve their race. They hate the idea whites might stand up for their racial values, history, way of life, and the protection of their culture and historical lands. Ironically, the same non-whites applaud with other races loudly support their own. We are living in the great agitators of social chaos, those spawning the carnage and destruction of the French Revolution, the same people in the heart of the Jewish Bolshevik Revolution loose on Russia. It would seem the Red Terror is preparing to howl again. All the people have a right to embrace and celebrate and preserve their race. Those promoting multiculturalism, diversity, and political correctness are race haters. Race destruction is their goal. Diversity, as taught in American schools and hung as slogans in the United States Post Office buildings, is real hate speech. Slogans supporting genocide of white people, concealing the violence on the full meaning within the murky, unrevealed morality of collectivism's doublespeak. Multiculturalism is a ploy to blend races, leaving nothing but one cultureless, sameless mono-race, a bland, dumbed-down being, ready to be enslaved by forever by the Zionist elite. Racially pure, of course, attempting to take control of the world. Multiculturalism is disguised racial violence, a concealed deliberate operation to eliminate all races, beginning with the race using slogans and Orwellian wrapped hate speech pretending to strengthen cultural awareness and cooperation. In the end, this is really about slavery of all mankind, and the consideration of all races into one single slave species. H.G. Wells presents this of the future in The Time Machine. Psychopathic rulers of the world would have been dreaming this scene for quite some time. America is being conquered by the International Breakaway Society, an organization claiming the world as their home, using the convenience of printed money whose values is well stolen from the American middle class, and dual citizenships and parasitic groups has taken control of the media and education system. Controlling thought using carefully crafted psychological weapons deploy via their media. All media is supported through captured educational programs. The invaders have mesmerized and somehow stunned white Americans who are now in the suicidal trance, walking toward the edge of oblivion. The Dillon Roof shooting will be the further shame and cause feelings of guilt to associate symbols and icons of American heritage, including the right to bear arms and self-defense, with acts of violence and terrorism. The American Constitution, especially the rights enumerated for extra protection, the Bill of Rights, represent the apex of human achievement to preserve and protect the individual from the tyranny, slavery, oppression, collectivism, and domination. America is the world's last hope. Wake up, white people. Take back your country. Stand up for your rights, your way of life, culture, history. Stand up for your accomplishments, ingenuity, and values. Stand up for Americans and save the world, because when America falls, another dark ages begin. And let me just see here. It says here about the little quote. It says, "Cause I live and breathe is Philadelphia freedom. From the day I was born, I waved the flag. Philadelphia freedom took me took me knee-high to a man, yet gave me peace of mind my daddy never had. Oh, Philadelphia, freedom shines on me. I love you. Shine a light through the eyes of the ones left behind. Shine a light. Shine a light. Shine a light, won't shine a light. Philadelphia, freedom, I love you. Yes, I do. Elton John, Philadelphia, freedom. And right here, arise, arise, riders of Theoden, fell deeds awake, fire and slaughter. Spear shall be shaken, shield be splintered. A sword day, a red day, ere the sun rises. Ride now, ride now, ride to Grenor. The Two Towers, Chapter 5, the Ride of the Worthroom. And it's interesting because it's like symbolically, it's a thing called white genocide, and it's not, I'm saying be a white sympathizer or anything like that. You got every group, doesn't matter what they look like, as in history, has lots of rough edges. But if you're going to try to force people into multiculturalism, I do find that irrelevant. I don't care what you look like. You can't shove things down people's throats. If they want to learn about other cultures, it has to be on a voluntary basis. And when folks ask me about the Confederate flag and all that, I give people my intake. If people heard me enough times when I made that statement, it's just another distraction. You have to really look at the historical aspects of everything. It's good and bad. Every nation has it, every group has it, and even our family traits as well. But we have to preserve our heritage, period. Like even with the Native Americans, I like to see their heritage be exercised and be honored, not be treated like second-class clowns or ingrates, which they're not. They got their beauty too. It's everyone across the board. Doesn't matter what you look like, but let the people honor their heritage. We can share this information out of love instead of getting wound up like a bunch of herd conformists. And when they go live, you gotta do this now because it's racial. And they're like, yeah, we don't think for ourselves, but you sound correct. We gotta get out of that mind control hype. It's all they're doing is total mind control, manipulate, and want you to be sorry on what you look like or what your heritage is. And that's when I say, up yours to those scumbags. And like I always talk about the Edward Bernays' playbook on propaganda. It's a very good example. Look it up. I'm not gonna add it to my footnotes, but definitely look it up. You won't be disappointed. And here's one right here. Actually, it came from what's that group? Middle East Post. So this one here is entitled "Japan to Restart Nuclear Plant" by Golden Mean. And it says here, Japan is due to restart a nuclear reactor under new safety rules brought in after the 2011 Fukushima disaster. All Japan's nuclear plants were gradually shut down after a series of meltdowns at the Fukushima plant, but after passing stringent new tests, Kyushu Electric Power said it will restart the number one reactor in its Sendai plant on Tuesday morning. Japanese power operators have applied to restart 25 reactors despite strong public opposition. The disaster at the Fukushima Daiichi plant was triggered by a massive earthquake and tsunami. Prime Minister Shinzo Abe said on Monday that the government wanted to press ahead was starting reactors after they had passed the world's toughest safety screening. I would like Kyushu Electric to put safety first and take utmost precaution for the restart, he said. The government has said Japan needs nuclear power to cut huge energy import bills and to cut Japanese growing CO2 emissions. Many local residents are unhappy about the Sunday part restarting. The BBC's Rupert Ringfield Hayes in Tokyo says that more than $100 million has been spent on fitting new safety systems at the Sunday plant. However, experts have warned that the reactor left idle for years tend to experience teething problems and say such a mass restart of dormant reactors have been attempted before our correspondence adds. Japan's Nuclear Regulation Authority approved 2 reactors at the Sunday plant last September under stricter safety rules. The second reactor is due to be restarted in October. The number 1 reactor is expected to start generating power by Friday and reach full capacity sometime next month. Despite the government's plan, there is public resistance to restarting nuclear power plants, and protesters gathered outside the Sandy plant on Monday. The Fukushima Daiichi plant was badly damaged by earthquakes and tsunami. Local residents say they are worried about the potential dangers from active volcanoes in the region. Protesters were rallied by Naoto Kan, prime minister at the time of the Fukushima crisis, who told the crowd, "We don't need nuclear plants." He said the Fukushima disaster had exposed the myth of the safe and cheap nuclear power, which turned out to be dangerous and expensive. One of the most powerful earthquakes ever recorded, struck off the coast of Japan in March 2011, triggered a huge tsunami. Almost 16,000 people died, and more than 2,500 are still listed as missing. None of the deaths, however, has been linked to the nuclear disaster, although there were a number of fatalities in the subsequent evacuation. And I have to really respect that, because this is a lot more treacherous than what people think. And what really gets my goat is, why the hell are you going to have nuclear power plants along a fault line? And I've been in Japan for a week, and I can say that area is pretty active. And unfortunately for me, I never had a experience an earthquake. Ooh, a little yawning there, but forgive me. But the people in Japan are concerned, and I can't really blame them, because right now that place is pretty contaminated right now. I don't want to go back there. I know the west coast of the United States and Canada, Alaska, a lot of issues there as well. But I don't know what kind of new security safety system they're going to have there. I don't really buy it, respectfully. Nothing personal against the companies putting it in there, but I recommend they shouldn't do it at all. So that is really it, to be honest. I'd like to thank everyone for listening to this episode. Plus, feel free to download and share this throughout your social media network. If you have any questions, comments, compliments, criticisms, love letters, hate letters, or you got anything interested to send me or a recommendation, please always use it with decorum. You can hit me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Spreaker, and iHeartRadio for your comments. Or feel free to email me at lokiluck3@gmail.com, which is the number 3 to be exact, all together. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves, keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.